Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Pardon me. Today is Friday, November 9th, 2018. Glad everyone could be a part of the show tonight. Let's take a look at our solar wind speeds at 508.3 kilometers per second with a density of 13.4. Also want to note that we are heading into the 10th of November, which means we have a chance of a geomagnetic storm. We'll get to that here in a minute. Taking a look at our sun, guess what? We are blank once again. The sunspot activity that I thought that we were possibly going to see, so far nothing official, but this is 22 straight days without a sunspot. 188 days now in 2018 without sunspots. The TCI went up just a little bit to 46 billion watts. Taking a look at our KP indices, we're sitting at a 4, and the 24-hour max is a 4. And like I said, we are now heading into that solar wind that is coming from the coronal hole. Actually, this is just an expansion of that coronal hole. Possibility, elevated chances for increased solar winds for the next couple of days. Let's take a look at it in motion. And I want to show you guys the area that I thought maybe possibly had a chance of development. And so far, it has kind of just decayed and just remained a little spot, just slightly intense enough to be noticed on the current image here. So right now, as of today as we speak, 0 sunspots to report of, and looking at the eastern limb, it doesn't appear that we will see anything. So unless something just happens to form instantly already on the face of the sun, we do not look to have any more sunspots for at least the next few days. Our TSI readings went up just a little bit to 1360.7283. We've been hanging around the 0.6 values for a few days now. And finally, the last couple of days, the readings for November 1st from October 30th did climb back up into the 0.7 value range. And here's something we haven't talked about in a while, guys, and that is Kilauea. And I wanted to go over this article just because we haven't heard anything about Kilauea in a while. And I feel like that the reason why this article is being posted, not so much that we're going to be entering another eruptive phase here, but I think someone feels this is important to mention because they are also on the lookout. And it says here, while Kilauea volcano in Hawaii is not erupting at the moment, and rates of seismicity, deformation, and gas release have not changed significantly over the past week, deformation signals are consistent with refilling in the Middle East Rift Zone. Hazards are still present in the Lower East Rift Zone. It says here, HVO monitoring during the past week shows low rates of seismicity at the summit in the East Rift Zone, or ERZ to be short. Earthquakes continue to occur at Kilauea Summit and the South Flank, which they started all the way back on, actually it was May 3rd, 2018. The EZR tildemeters near Pu'ao and farther east continue to record an inflationary trend consistent with refilling of the Middle East Rift Zone. At the summit, tildemeters have recorded a slight inflation. They just said that. Thanks a lot, watchers. Nothing like repeating yourself. Sulfur dioxide gas emissions at the summit averaged 50 tons per day, as reported on the 24th of October, and 75 tons at Pu'ao on October 23rd. There was no sulfur dioxide detected by our instruments in the lower east, in the eastern Rift Zone. But it does say here, residents and visitors near recently active fissures and lava flows should stay informed and heed Hawaii County Civil Defense and National Park warnings. Be prepared if necessary to self-evacuate in the unlikely event. Now they did say unlikely, but again, they are allowing this opportunity for people to just remain vigilant here. Please note that the Hawaii County maintains the closure of the entire flow field and vents and prohibits access to the area unless authorized through civil defense. They are continuing to watch this activity. And again, this is not promising. This article is not saying we're getting ready to see some more action from Kilauea, but that, we are constantly monitoring the situation because the last time that Kilauea did erupt, we were talking from 69 to 74. And so really this is just the beginning of what Kilauea does. Who knows? We may not see another eruption again, but scientists are basically saying we're monitoring this. There is a chance. Things are still remaining where they should be for now, but just in case, please heed the warnings. And that's really the point that I wanted to bring out tonight in this. Moving along, Staying on the west coast, from Hawaii to California, tens of thousands flee rapidly growing campfire killed 5, 2,000 structures destroyed, 15,000 threatened. Now this all started yesterday, and I gotta admit, I'm a little disappointed that the mainstream media did not have one program other than maybe a 3-minute mention that showed coverage of this situation. Kind of scary. The campfire started around 6:30 in Camp Creek Road near Highway 70 in the Feather River Canyon and grew an estimated 20,000 acres by 1906 Pacific Standard Time. Evacuation orders were established for Paradise, Magala, Concal, Butte Creek Canyon, and Butte Valley, Cal Fire said. Forest Ranch is under evacuation warning. Several hundred structures, including homes and businesses, in the town of Paradise, population 27,000, have been destroyed. The fire is now threatening another 15,000 structures. The whole Paradise is on fire, local authorities said, adding a large swath of downtown has been destroyed. The event caused a chaotic evacuation of most of the town's residents. And chaotic is the least, that's probably saying it pretty lightly, actually. Pretty much the community of Paradise is destroyed. It's that kind of devastation, said the fire captain, Scott McLean. The wind that was predicted came and just wiped it out. So basically this storm, this wind came through, and this fire basically was a storm, grew very fast. I saw several pictures on social media today of structures that have been, like a McDonald's, for instance. They showed before and after. Look at this. My God. Wow. I'm just kind of taking this in, guys. Sorry. This is pretty intense stuff. Our thoughts and prayers are definitely with these folks out here in California. I'm sure that most of you in the chat will give us updates of what's going on right now. This story was posted earlier today and was kind of like one of the first updates, but there's so much footage right now on Twitter. It's the best place to find your raw footage and real information. I don't, at least in my feeds, I don't have a lot of liars that are in my feed. So the footage that is in this article, we'll leave the link in the description. Check it out. But very, very scary situation. And, you know, when this story was posted, 0% of this fire was not contained. So I don't know if that has changed or not. Mari, is anybody in the chat saying anything about if anything has changed as far as the containment of this fire?
I don't know. They just, Rob said that they do now. It destroyed the Westworld set.
It says that it destroyed the Westworld set.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I don't know what he means by that.
This fire obviously is not contained and is continuing to wreak havoc. We are going to pay very close attention to this. Again, as our thoughts and prayers are with this part of California, and we hope we can get some kind of resolution for them very, very fast. But this has been a swift fire, and it means business, unfortunately. 12 months worth of rain in 2 days. Strong winds and snow hit New Zealand's South Island. Guys, I read this article, and New Zealand gets around, I don't know, let's just say the amount of rain that fell in 57 hours in some areas, 25.6 inches, is more than what this area receives in a year. Among the main weather concerns today are heavy rain for the west of the South Island spilling across the Alps and severe gales from Canterbury to Wellington. There are numerous severe weather warnings and watches out for the South Island and lower North Island lasting to Friday, which is today. This was yesterday's news, but still notable to talk about here. Guys, this is what the image is showing here is what we call an atmospheric river. And that's exactly how they are pointing out to this. But here's some totals. Listen to this. Ivory Glacier near Hokkaido recorded 25.6 inches of rain, and it was still falling as of November 8th. All right? That's 110% of the annual normal rainfall near Christchurch. Over the same period of Mount Philistine received 20 inches, Arthur's Pass received 15.6, and Mount Cook received 13.8 inches of rain, guys. The flooding, can you imagine the possibility of landslides? This is only the beginning here. Another story that we will keep our eyes on. This was a brief little update of the rain, but look at this. I mean, we've seen these atmospheric rivers before, and usually we're used to seeing these bad boys hitting California during its rainy season. Now, I think, November, we are in the rainy season for California, if I'm not correct. Just the very beginning. So, boy, could we use a little bit of rain now to help with these fires. The last thing we need in California right now is an atmospheric river. Let's hope that we don't see that development over California in any areas that's been fire-stricken, because we all know flash flooding, mudslides, some dangerous situations could occur after these fires are fresh, and then you get a bunch of moisture and rain. It's a mess. So, all right. So I wanted to point out here that it is that time of year, and we are, dealing with snow in most parts of the United States today. Sioux Falls had a huge pileup on their interstate. This story was working earlier. This is great. Thanks a lot, channel, whatever you are. It is not letting me. Wow. Thank you. There was an article with this, but it just gave the stats. So here we have snow in South Dakota causing morning traffic problems. Wisconsin also getting their snow this morning, making their commute tricky as well. And then we also have Omaha with snow. Several Omaha area drivers tweeted their frustration on the road conditions, causing commutes that took up to hours. Again, these are light accumulations, but it is November 9th. Usually, it's not unheard of to see snowfall. Cleveland, get ready, guys. Northeast Ohio, Mentor, you guys are looking at possibility of 1 to 3 inches of snow. This is their first major lake effect snow event of the season, likely heading their way on Saturday. Colder air moves over the warmer waters of Lake Erie. Conditions will become more favorable for snow showers to develop and build in. Snow could impact Cleveland and other parts of northeast Ohio for much of Saturday morning and afternoon. Some accumulations will be possible, 1 to 2 inches for parts of Cleveland where lake effect snow bands will set up. More snow accumulation will be possible in northeast Cleveland across Lake Geauga and Ashtabula counties, where some spots could pick up a quick 2 to 3 inches of snow. It will also get quite windy Saturday. You get that when you have your lake effect snows. And also, temperatures will start off in the 20s on Saturday morning, and will climb into the 30s by the afternoon. Normal temperature for Cleveland this time of year is 54 degrees. And it looks like this surge of colder than normal air will stick around for at least the next week. And looking at many long-term forecasts, that indeed does appear to be the trend as well. Also, we had to deal with the slick stuff in Chicago. Follow the path here. The commute was slick, sloppy Friday morning after Chicago area got up to 1.5 inches of snow overnight. It was the first measurable snowfall for the city of Chicago. Some western suburbs saw their first snow on October 20th. The area normally sees its first measurable snow by November 17th. And that's only 1/10 of an inch. He said it's a little early, said Todd Kluber, a meteorologist for the National Weather Service, but once we get to November, it's not atypical. Of course not, but it's still early, and it's quite a bit more than what they're usually used to seeing at this time of year. Mix of light snow and rain made roads slick and cut visibility. Pavements were mostly wet. The snow was tapering off as of 7 a.m., but another quick burst was expected to move through Chicago in that next hour. Snow totals by 7 a.m. included an inch or more in the west and northwest suburbs of Naperville, Crystal Lake, and Hebron, with Lake County suburbs including Libertyville and Lake Zurich seeing close to 2 inches according to the Weather Service. Strong winds were expected to develop later today into the night with the strongest gusts of high of 35 to 40 miles per hour. Temperature is expected to be around 29 degrees, overnight lows around 20. Saturday expected with lows or highs in just 32 degrees. And I can tell you this right now, guys, that is kind of the narrative of a lot of people's forecast for the remainder of this weekend and much of next week into the following weekend. And I'll tell you, the only reason why I think that that will continue and maybe even further is because, after 7 days, I think a lot of these forecasters and weather companies use the averages from the years past to try to come up with a formula with the next week's temperatures. So we will keep our eyes on this as well. And I'll get into some more snow talk here just in a minute. But I want to show you guys NOAA. Now this is funny. They've lowered this number. This was 80% at one point. Wait a minute. October 11th. That's not what I wanted. We were supposed to have... Strange. I don't know why this is doing this, Mari, but the screen will not advance for me. So anyway, well... No, I mean... This was supposed to be the updated... I wanted the updated report for El Nino. And I'm not looking at that. And I want to... All right, sorry about that, folks. I don't know what is going on here. I am looking into the latest report on the El Nino, and that article, which I thought was actually the update, I don't think it is. Excuse me for being so vague right now. I'm currently looking for the update right here. I think this is it. All right, I found it, I think. Waiting for it. Okay, I found it. All right, so here we go. Sorry about that, guys. Well, no, I didn't. It just took it out, Mar, by closing that. All right, so I'll save it for another time. Apparently, though, the report that I saw that has 80% chance for El Nino. They actually rose the chances for El Nino. Now, the reason why I wanted to discuss this tonight is because we have shown other numbers that do not represent what NOAA is talking about. And I find it interesting that today, here we are talking about NOAA's report saying that we're 75 to 80% chance of El Nino developing. We've witnessed the temperature anomaly jump above the 1.4 degrees Celsius above baseline. We also talked about how from late March till mid-June, we should be at temperatures in this reading right here, where it is right here. Now, guys, this is September through November. So we've had about 5 weeks of consistency of this actual temperature anomaly right here. The problem is that this is the numbers that we were supposed to be at from March through mid-June. So now we're getting March through mid-June, but we only got a month of these temperatures. And it's also, according to NOAA, likely that temperatures from November through February will be in the 1.5 up to the 1.5 value. So in other words, we're supposed to have 3 months of 0.5 degrees above baseline, and then the remainder part of the fall and winter, beginning of winter 2018, 2019, is supposed to be reaching near the 1.5. Now we did that. We had a spike, went all the way to 1.5 degrees Celsius above baseline, and here lately we've taken another sharp drop in temperatures. We're almost half of that now, lower in just the last 48 hours. Some very dramatic temperature shifts going on here in the El Nino district of 3-4. And we take a look at the temperatures once again. We were reporting, we do see a lot cooler waters up in this row up here, the 27s, the 26, the 27, the 27, 28, 28, 29. Those were 29s and 30s. The 27s were 28s, and so forth and so on. So, again, we haven't seen conditions stay consistent at all this year. And once again, the water temps are struggling to represent a really good indicator, in my opinion. And I'm an amateur, so this is new. But just from what I know from my sources, people that helped me show me this data, this just does not look consistent enough to say 80% chance of El Nino happening now. I mean, we're talking numbers here. These are barely above the threshold. And we're supposed to be way higher than that. These numbers should have been back in March through June. Starman did a wonderful presentation. He's the one that alerted me about how these numbers aren't adding up. We have not seen indices of 30 degrees Celsius at one point at all in the last 5 years. When we were told we were in a super El Nino, we have to be around 30 Celsius, and we weren't. So it's not a super. It was just almost a strong El Nino, but it wasn't quite there. But yet, NOAA overhypes it and says it was a super El Nino. Why is that? Well, it's for the money, obviously. They depend on grant money from the government. So when the numbers don't match up to the grant money is for, they have to overpump the report and cook the books a little bit and overhype it. Super El Nino. And actually it was just a moderate El Nino to a slightly stronger El Nino. It wasn't super though. Super is at a +2 and higher. But again, just like the problems I've had with the NOAA Facebook page, anything that goes against the narrative of global warming, whether it's man-made or not, NOAA still insists right now, even if you talk to them yourself right now, go ahead and say hi to them on Facebook. But they will even still tell you that we are continuing to warm, that there's no cooling happening, and that nobody agrees that cooling is happening right now. And to me, I just find it really ballsy to be that confident and tell people like me, who says I'm spreading disinformation, yet I know it's cooling. The numbers tell me it's cooling. Hey, by the way, so here's to my buddy that wanted me to show this ice stuff here, so it doesn't show that I'm lying. Again, we started off one of the lowest starts that we've had in a long time. since satellite data apparently on this. So here's your line. Here's your little medium range here. Here's your, let's go back to 79. That gap is closing, folks. That gap is rapidly closing. Again, we are almost at 9 million of square kilometers. 8.939. And I did fact check here. Where were we on November 9th? 10.216. 1.3 millions of square kilometers is the gap now. What is that, like less than 10%? It was a lot larger than that when I first started talking about this. The difference in growth. When I first mentioned this back, I think it was on the 3rd of November. 8.2. Let's see, we were here. How fast we've closed that gap. So 9.8 on the average, and we were at an 8.2. So we've closed the gap by, 0.2 over the last 10 days in growth. But we are growing at a faster rate, especially since we've headed into November. Guys, this line was a lot farther apart. And I'm talking about this line here, right there, the bottom one, the orange, which is now. This other line is 1981 through 2010 median. So you can say what you want about the beginning of the year. I gotcha. Sure, ice wasn't that great. We were coming off of a lot of melt, but now temperatures have really, really dropped, and I think we're looking at some rapid, intense freezing going on right now. Now, one more thing I want to point out about temperatures here. Check out the North Atlantic. And my only guess is this 0.449. And this is as of November 9th today. So we're almost at 0.5 degrees above baseline here in the North Atlantic. I'm just taking a guess at this. But and Rob is one of the people that's pointed this out. There is an underwater volcano that has been erupting for quite some time. So I'm just taking a guess and thinking maybe that the reason why we're seeing an increase in these temperatures is that we do have some underwater activity from volcanoes, and it's possible that the recent uptick in seismicity in the region is due from underwater explosions, and therefore possibly slightly heating up the North Atlantic just a little bit. That's my guess, because if you look at the trend right now, unfortunately it looks like it's heading up. We were talking about how the North Atlantic most of the year was pretty cold, and it's still pretty cold, don't get me wrong. This is just one region. It's not the entire area. It's not like the glaciers are melting, as I just showed you that there. Let's take a look at the actual map of the ice that we have right now. This was October of 2018. Now check out our current, and here's November. So we can see the growth. The ice is overflowing in some parts, and it's catching up to that orange median line. So we're not having an issue here. We're not worried about melt or anything like that. I just wanted to point out that I think that it's possible, and don't quote me on it, but it's possible that we are dealing with a little bit of increase of temperature in the North Atlantic because of this underwater volcano that's been going on for quite some time, and really doesn't pose any kind of immediate threat. I mean, this is out in the middle of nowhere, basically. And also, I'm referring to the earthquake that we had last night, the 6.8 out there in the name's left me. Jan something, I can't remember. Forgive me, guys. I had the name. It originally said Savard, which thanks to a friend of mine who helped me out with actual location of this earthquake, there was no threat from it. But my point is that I don't think we have to be alarmed by this anomaly here. As time goes on, I'm sure seismicity and action underwater will settle down a little bit, and we will see cooler temperatures. But we'll have to keep our eye on it. You know, I don't predict the future. I only observe it. And really, I think that's all I have for tonight, guys. Oh, no. One more thing. The snow cover. And then I'll go through our GFS because we got a little bit of snow to talk about. Here's what we're expecting from now until the 23rd of November. The Northeast looks like to be the receiver of the majority of the snow. There's a lot of low pressure systems in this area that are seeing quite a bit of snow in southern Canada. And the area here in the Northeast, it's possible. Some spots here in the Northeast, Western New York and New England and upstate New York as well, can possibly see up to a foot of snow. Now, I think that's going to be in higher elevations, nothing local. But here's what we're looking at right now. We've got this interesting setup here. Snow moving through right now in the Northeast on the west side of this storm. Tomorrow, as it moves out, Maine, this is all going to be snow for you. And also Saturday into Sunday, we're dealing with some lake effect snows, Buffalo, Syracuse, and this reaches out to upstate New York before it dies out. Sunday, high pressure sets in for a little bit, but then we look out to Texas. Check this out, guys. Texas, get your snow shovels out. We are going to get, I don't know how significant. Obviously, it hasn't been cold that long in Texas, so this won't cause any kind of shoveling issues, but you will see some snow showers on Monday and Sunday. Sunday and Monday, November 12th. And this storm gets going here in the Gulf, comes up into the southeast, and this is why, you know, this is why we do this as much as we can live. But earlier in the week, I talked to you guys about how Ohio, it's shifted. The storm has shifted a little bit. So, like central Ohio to eastern Ohio is going to get the beginning of it. Well, look what happened. Tuesday, November 13th, the storm has shifted once again. So now Indiana, southwest Ohio, all the way through Columbus into Cleveland, you guys become players once again for some snowfall. Tuesday, it gets heavier as this storm moves up the coast, looking like a nor'easter. We'll have to take a look at this, see which direction these winds are coming from too. And as it moves through on Tuesday, heavy, the heaviest of it, thank God, is in the Atlantic. Snow continuing for Ohio, but not as much as once thought in parts of Pennsylvania. Now, we will see significant snow in western New York, central New York. It'll start off as rain here in upstate New York on Tuesday, November 13th, but as we go into Wednesday, that will all change to snow in New York. Western Pennsylvania will have some few lingering showers into Wednesday. Most of western New York will be inundated with lake effect snows, reaching out towards upstate New York. And then November 15th, we kind of see a bit of a break. High pressure is dominating the entire United States. And I hope this map is true because we could all use a little break here. But we're looking at high pressure not bringing us any moisture whatsoever in the U.S. on the 15th. That could be too good to be true. But as we go through the future here, out to the 16th, high pressure moves out, and we see another storm system coming in the northwest. Canada, again, southern Canada is getting the snowfall, and they are really setting the narrative up for this winter. So we stay dry for a few more days, and then a pretty big system starts to get its act together on November 19th, Monday. The northwest, Nevada, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, Washington, Oregon, parts of California, be on the lookout as snow will envelop throughout most of the northern plains into the Rockies. Look at this bad boy. By November 20th, huge low pressure system. This is going to go across the north, and this thing turns into a nasty looking storm by Wednesday, November 21st, as this low pressure system pushes on. Right now, the GFS is not showing enough cold air for this to be an all snow event in the East Coast and Northeast. But there is a weird dip into the jet stream that we'll have to keep our eyes on that could possibly shift this a little further south as it moves through on the 22nd of November. It looks like we dodge a huge bullet here in the east coast, we're just dealing with rain and no snow. Cold air does come in behind this system, possibility some lake effect snow, but then we turn our attention once again to the northwest as another system tries to get its act together. And actually, we've got two systems, folks. On the 24th of November, we have one that develops very quickly across the Midwest. We've got snow, rain, and freezing rain in parts of that storm. And then right behind it, its brother, and that's got a lot more snow and a lot more cold air to come with it. So we are going to have an interesting looking setup for Thanksgiving this year, it looks like, in the next coming 2 or 3 weeks. The weather, we will get a break on the 15th, a much needed break. Right now, what we're experiencing now through Wednesday here in the Northeast and other parts of the country, the Midwest, Northern Plains, this has been an appetizer. In a sense, what we're experiencing right now has been kind of a bit of an appetizer. And then we get a break around the 15th of November. Things stay quiet. And then winter comes back in full effect by the 18th of November, which is next Sunday in the Northwest. And that system moves across. And again, if colder air moves in quicker, this could be a problem in the Northeast. Temperatures are going to stay in the freezing area, I know, up here in the Northeast and other parts of the country. So by Thanksgiving, the ground could be frozen enough for one of these two storm systems to dump some heavy snow. And this could be a possibility, 1-2 punch storm system here at the end of November heading into December. So interesting to talk about last year where we had the mid-December cold snap in parts of the U.S. last year, and that lasted through mid-January, and then we got this sudden warmth, and we had the ice jam floods. And then after that, February and March stayed about normal cold weather for most, and then it kind of just hung out into March into April and never got warm until May. But interesting to see this year that I think we're seeing earlier cold snaps and earlier snow. Now, we're not talking about anything sub-freezing yet, but I have been following Judah Cohen on Twitter, and he is really starting to think something's cooking up here at the end of this month for cold air. So we will have to keep our eyes on the weather situation over the next several weeks. It is fall, it is November, it's not unusual to see freezing temperatures and snow. However, the setup that we're looking at right now, interesting to see the development and how much moisture we're going to get. Now, guys, we talk about the rainy season on the West Coast. I want to highlight that. That doesn't get going here for a few more days. So let's hope we can get these fires under control. We aren't going to see any moisture in the West Coast California region until November 18th. That's 9 days away. And we got one system. The second system comes in around the 22nd. Third system comes through on the 25th. So there is moisture on the way, California. Bear with it. Hopefully we can save some more structures and lives between now and then, and hopefully start to put the pieces back together as well. And hopefully these aren't overwhelming rains. The last thing we need is an atmospheric river type situation on that side of the country with all those.
And that would be landslides.
Yeah, landslides. I mean, it's already bad enough right now. So just something to keep an eye on, guys. Weather, it's going to be a bumpy November, it looks like. We do get a quiet time for a few days in the middle of November. But again, the GFS has changed. Like I told people, I told a subscriber the other day that it looks like the forecast is going to shift this storm where central Ohio eastward gets it. Now this storm is forming right in the heart of the entire state of Ohio will be affected from day one of the storm with snow. It will not be rain whatsoever. So we'll just have to see how much we get from that. And that is the storm that's supposed to hit midweek next week. Again, temperatures in the area will stay in freezing. So we should be cool enough to see snow possibly stick on the roads and the pavements by this time in the middle of the week. Now, taking a look at the temperatures up and down, the 50s today, no more. Highs in the 40s. Lots of cold air surging in from the Arctic into the northern plains across the Midwest. I mean, we get some cold temperatures as far south. Here, let's see. Let's go back. Right here is our coldest. Saturday, Texas, you get in on the action. Oklahoma, you're in the 20s. New Mexico, 24 degrees. And even in the far south, guys, 35 degrees in Alabama, 35 in Mississippi, 41 in parts of Georgia, 33 in Texas, 37, 35. I mean, these are chilly temperatures for this time of year. And as we move forward through the month, this cold air makes another push. Again, over half of the country below freezing. And the half that's not below freezing is still in the 40s and lower. There are the daytime highs for Sunday, November 11th. Most of the country is going to be in the mid-30s or below freezing. More cold air trying to push its way in. The 12th. We see this trend, guys. And I see above all this a shift in the pattern once again to the end of the month. And I think that we're going to see this push of Arctic air push through. It's going to push this south, so it's going to allow more. It's possible we'll see a slight warm up here in this region all the way up the northeast at the end of November before we see this cold air finally push its way and work its way across the East Coast. And that's where I'm concerned with that last storm that we were looking at the end of November. If that gets cold enough by the end of the month, what are we looking at for precipitation here? Is it all snow? Is it all rain? Again, it's too early to tell. This is almost 2.5 weeks out, but definitely a lot of stuff to keep our eyes out, folks. We want everybody to stay alert. But again, I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight, guys. Make sure to like and share and subscribe. Hit that bell and the notifications. That way you get a notification when we do go live, when the gremlins at YouTube are not disturbing our channel. That being said, Mari, you were pretty good tonight? Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to give Mari the night off on the end of the night report. Guys, I know I probably missed some things that I wanted to talk about tonight. I'll try to have that all together. I think we're looking at Sunday evening at 6 p.m. This weekend is just going to be myself, and then next Sunday at 6 p.m., schedule permitting, we will have Henrik back on the show, and we'll get an update from his new channel that he's doing, The Ancient Night, on YouTube, and that is Ancient Night as in Night. So check that out as well. But again, Henrik will be on next Sunday as long as his schedule permits it, 6 p.m. our time. But this Sunday it'll just be us, the Grand Solar Minimum, giving you a weekend update and giving you an update on this winter weather as well. If anything breaks across over the weekend, Saturday, we'll definitely give you guys a report. But until Sunday evening, guys, have a safe weekend. We'll talk soon.